And I think one of the, and so we have these beautiful buildings, historically designated buildings. And so there's a number of challenges as we think about the future. But one of the things that's true now and what we always want to be is welcome. That's certainly who we are and what we do. Everyone thinks they're the most welcoming parish in the diocese, but we know we are. And humble about it. Yeah. And so that really is the thing that really drives really both the projects we'll be describing today. When we began to think about the school, there are 21st century opportunities and some challenges. So one of those is not only to be welcoming and make a statement about who we are as a Catholic school, but also to be secure. And so, anyone who's been in the school and knows that the security is certainly honor system. You buzz in and hope people make it to the office, which is not a very good plan. And so, that's kind of what's showing behind me right now is some of the opportunities to make the school both welcoming, but also more secure. And along with that, a couple of the other things that we had in mind, like adult bathrooms and a good nurse's office and air conditioning, which helps with the whole education experience. So to be better in terms of welcoming, security, and functionality. We got over to the church side. The same thing. One, first and foremost, welcome. How can we continue to be in a very physical way, being welcome in the community? Security is certainly there. Functionality. And as we've talked and thought more about it, and there's been many long meetings and many conversations and a few arguments and all those things that go into trying to find a good solution for how we can do all of those things: the welcoming, the security, the functionality, but especially the much-needed accessibility. Our current situation is breaking down, really unacceptable, not respectful. And when we thought about it, we could think a quick solution. We could really look at a larger question. And so to really design something that makes the church, the chapel, and all of the old rectory and most of Fahey accessible, so that we really truly can use all of our space in an effective way, is really what we kind of have evolved to. And so that's largely what we'd like to present to you today. So it's about really securing the future. It's what we said in the Catholic campaign at the beginning. How can we really be a 21st century parish? We have people from our architects, SMG, and from our contractors and members of the building committee. And I'm really grateful to everybody for all the effort that's gotten us this far. I want to show you where we've come. And so it's my little intro, and I'll turn over to Todd from the architecture.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very, very, very much for coming. Really excited to have this opportunity to describe the work that's been done today. Just by way of introduction, our firm does a lot of education work. We don't tend to do a lot of archdiocese work. However, so our departure point for this project was the work at the school. But what was particularly appealing to us, and one of the reasons we were so interested in the project, is that this is a legacy project. Both of these projects are a legacy project. The church work in particular, which is essentially an accessibility project. We don't see it that way. We see this as an opportunity to unite the whole campus and connect and make the whole, what basically, you have a wonderful church, you have wonderful rectory buildings, it's a landmark district, but a lot of it has been built incrementally over time, and we use the opportunity to unite the whole in a way that is accessible to all folks, and as Father so nicely said, can extend the future future uses for the next 100 years or so. I guess to begin with the schoolwork, as Father also said, we're trying to create a welcoming entry, an iconic entry, create a unique identity, and also bring in some of the traditional imagery that the school has anchored in faith. And so obviously, the building is a legacy building as well, and we're trying to touch it but not to upset the balance of what's there already. And that's the same also thing that we've also employed at the church in Care Center. Here we created a small welcoming canopy with some signage with the anchor and chain imagery. We're retaining the existing ornate work on the transom. So it's kind of a soft touch, and we're trying to create some lights in the canopy that are glazed over to get a little bit of light below the canopy. So there's weather protection, yet there's some more secure, more light into the space. To back up just a little bit, I'll put up the floor plan. And I know folks are not everybody's really good at reading floor plans. And that's fine, I'll try to explain it best I can. We're looking at a cut through the building, first floor plan. So here's the main entry. Here is the dining zone and rear underneath this area. So at main entry, the new canopy will extend over the existing stairs and ramp. We're not intending to touch that or upset that. There will be a security system to permit access into the building. And the big move is that we're moving the office, which has been up here, into the kindergarten room, which is off the street. So off the orchard. So the office will now have visual access to the front of the school for kids arriving and departing, parents, etc. So it's a more visual access. We're also creating an entry off of the stairwell, the main entry stairwell. So folks, when they are buzzed in, they can go directly into the office, and we can kind of control some, security better that way. We're also creating an opening, window opening from the office to give a little visual access into the entry vestibule. We're up a little bit, so it's not going to be straight into the vestibule, but we're doing the best we can. We're redoing the lighting and the materials and the colors in here, so we're kind of sprucing it up. The doorway that is here, I don't know if you know, but it's got a nice wood ornate trophy display. We're trying to maintain that. We're just simply shifting the door within that and keeping everything above intact. So these would be primarily exit-only doors, but at the beginning of the day, obviously, they'll be opened up for access by students. We're shifting the gym door further to the east toward the street to create more, basically relieve an unsafe condition where you have some students egressing down the stair. Those doors currently swing into the path of egress, and we're trying to mitigate that condition as much as possible. It's create a little wing wall to keep that doorway from hitting somebody. So that's what's going on there. So we have the business office here. Behind the business office, you have the assistant principal and the principal. The principal's office and the assistant principal have direct access, but the principal's office additionally has access to the corridor via a door. And the idea is that if there's an emergency or something that requires attention, it just gives it one more way to get out there quicker. We also have a door for the business office at the main hallway, so I think the visitor would basically guide it through this door rather than through these doors. And then we have the nurse's suite, with a small nurse's suite, with a toilet room dedicated. And adjacent to it, we have staff toilet room. Both of them are fully accessible. So we have one that's basically built for students and one that's built for adults, for all practical purposes. Behind that, we have a new classroom that can be used for, it's slightly smaller, obviously, than the original room, but we're maximizing it. We're providing a sort of smart board infrastructure, and we have a sink and some millwork in there to maximize the use to be employed there. Other things we're doing, finish-wise, we're providing a lot of carpet tile to mitigate noise, and in the classroom, because of water, because we're not entirely sure what the use that we want to be, we're using a solid vinyl tile to handle more moisture and so forth. So, before I go to the church, are there any questions on this? We can go back and forth if you'd like, but I thought I'd offer it.
Is that an elevator?
This is an existing lift, yes. We're not touching it.
But the existing kindergarten room that's going to be.
Yes, bigger picture, the kindergarten that's here will move to where the art is here. The art here will move to the third floor, northwest corner. It's a room with fantastic light. So that's sort of an internal shuffle, but these are the major architectural moves, so to speak. Yes?
I really like the canopy design. I think it's lovely. Can you talk about the materials you're using? And I know you have skylights. I'm also wondering what kind of regular lighting will be in there to keep that from being a black hole.
Yeah, we're looking at like LED lighting along the perimeter of, as you enter, as you go up the stairs, along the long edges of the canopy on the other side. So it's a small, low-profile light. It's not an attractive nuisance for vandalism the way an incandescent bulb might be. Material-wise, we have steel on the perimeter, so we've got sort of a ornamental steel on the perimeter. Conventional flat modified bituminous roof on the top. The underside will be a gypsum board finish, basically a weather-resistant, moisture-resistant gypsum board.
Thank you.
Other question?
I might have missed this, but you're not doing anything to the fireside entrance, right?
Correct. We're not touching that. All the entries stay. Primarily, we're trying to maximize security just through the architectural orientation of the rooms, and then we're supplementing that with some additional infrastructure. We can go back to this, but I'm going to move on to the church, which is a little bit more theatrical presentation, so to speak. As I said, this is a unique opportunity. With a parish like St. Clement, opportunities like this don't come around. And you have wonderful legacy buildings. And the general move for us was to create a new accessible entry that didn't look like you were sending somebody back around the corner, that did not destroy the integrity of the existing architecture, because we are in a landmark district. We did have to present to the landmarks department, and so our general idea was to leave the rectory buildings as they are, the church obviously as it is, and to connect at the lower level of the loggia that connects the church to the rectory buildings. And so we're essentially connecting at the basement level. So to mitigate that we retain the arches and everything on the street facade, but to mitigate the fact that you're entering at a lower level, which is almost, by the way, the same level as the sidewalk on front on Deming. We wanted to get more light in from the courtyard. There's a wonderful, wonderful courtyard behind the loggia. We wanted to activate that as much as possible, give some views into that, and to capture light from that zone. So we created a large window wall to bring light into this space. At both the lower level, and created a little bit of an open space. So here's our entry level mansion closet there. So Deming's out that way. There's a small vestibule here. The vestibule will have a Dutch door for servicing mail and so forth. And we have a set of doors here, which will be one sort of security point. There's a reception desk that is going to show up to the side, and we're creating new offices in the lower level of the existing rectory building. This is all new. Right here, this is all new. This wall is the back of the existing loggia. So the arches currently are up here. So the idea was to create a space that could accommodate folks arriving with dignity and with enough room for folks to maneuver, and to bring as much light as we could to it, and to create some iconic ideas to get us to all the levels, but also to create some materials that visually led you through the space. So that is so here we are. We're in the arrival point. We have offices off to the left, to my left, and the stair that circulates up to the church level. And we're harvesting as much light as we can from the courtyard. there's a ramp that goes down to the chapel level, and behind me, there's a new elevator that we tucked into the rectory building that gets us up to every level of the rectory building. So we finally connected all the pieces and parts. And we tried to do it in a simple manner and create arrival points at both the lobby level and the second level. I'll let this cycle some more. So we are essentially not touching the facade at all, except at the lower level. So currently, this is all below ground, or part that's below ground. And we're creating some drainage and so forth to handle any stormwater drainage. And we're still higher than the chapel level. We're about 2 feet or so higher than the chapel level, and almost exactly the same level as the existing rectory basement. And this is the courtyard. Maximize the glass through there, the transparency, and the arches you can see through Clement. If the funding is available, one other nice thing we'd like to propose is a green roof on that structure, so that when you're up in the rectory building and you look down, it's not just a roof.
It's giving up, Jim.
Yeah. And
Thinking that, just thinking that. Then you go to, like, amazing green.
You've already got the goat, just need the roof.
here, I'll, okay, so, I know some folks are not really particularly strong at reading floor plans. That's why we have the rendering. But I'll try my best to walk you through this anyway. Deming is at the bottom of the screen, and we've created a plaza, which is your first outdoor arrival point. Love to get some seating there as well. That could be now or later, but obviously it'd be nice to get it all together now. So we've created some stained wood doors with glass to get visual access into the lobby. And here's that lobby entry zone with the Dutch door where mail and so forth can be managed. So this is sort of a control point here, and depending on the time of day, the day of the week, etc., these may be locked, they may be open, depending on if you have folks to man the doors and facilitate access. But once you get past the vestibule, this is a little arrival point where folks can gather, and we've located the elevator. This is an elevator here. We located the elevator in the rectory building. We looked at studies to put the elevator in the middle, in the courtyard, so we thought it'd be easier to build rather than cut through a bunch of floors and so forth. But what we realized is, first of all, that was more expensive, believe it or not, but also would have completely compromised any arrival point. You would have had a big elevator instead of a lobby, and it would not have been as usable. So we think this has worked out really well. It's really actually been a blessing to find out the costs. The only downside of putting this here, other than the complexity of constructing it, is that we had to pop through a little bit of the roof to get, the elevator needs a certain distance to travel above the top floor. They call it an override, and we have a slight little dormer that we've created. You'll see the rendering when it cycles through. But we've presented that to Landmarks, and we're going to do a real soft touch. We're not going to call attention to it. We initially proposed copper to match the copper on the existing rectory. They said no, we don't want anything that's going to compete with what's there. So it's going to be a real subdued, small little dormer. And it's tucked behind the tile roof, so it's nothing that's going to be, you'll be able to see it maybe from the corner of Orchard and Deming when there's no leaves on the trees. But, most of the time you won't be able to see it. Like I said, this is the office area, a little bit of storage and so forth. And then, so here's our feature wall, which we create a wood slat wall with some sound absorbing materials. This flooring would be like a porcelain tile, a nice neutral porcelain tile. Something that could take a little wear and tear. We have a walk-off mat to kind of get the mess out of folks' shoes and their leather. And thank you. Here's a ramp that goes down and into the chapel. So that's, you know, the stair goes up this way and it goes underneath it. It's like a spiral. So,
So where's that entrance to the chapel? Is that where the men's room?
Right.
yes,
Okay.
this is sort of the bell tower, so to speak.
Right, okay.
Let's see, let's go to the next plan. Okay, now we've gone up one floor. Here's the existing office area. We've got another, whoops.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Back it up.
Like Disneyland.
Okay. Oh, no, gotta be crossed. Yeah. All right. So now, folks have either taken the elevator up to this level or come up the stairs. There's an overlook into the courtyard. We're proposing a glass rail, again, get more light into the space. We're proposing to take the rear wall of the loggia, with the arches that faces the courtyard, open that up because we tried keeping it and we were fighting for enough room to get people through, and it was really more of an obstruction than anything. So what we did was we put 2 new columns and then opened this up to facilitate entry into the church. This space will also serve as a lobby for the elevator, the drives for the arrivals, and sort of a crier, so to speak, during when necessary, and a staging area for the bride's room, which is located around the corner. This elevator has doors on the front and back, and that's how we're getting access to the upper floors. I won't show plans of the upper floors, but suffice it to say that there's a connection at each level on the north side for each side. So let's cycle, I guess.
What's going on with like the dining room?
Yeah, the bride's room's the dining room.
Is that what the
Yes.
dining room is now, the bride's room?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say yes.
Up there.
Such a great
Put the
stained
bride
glass
side.
window in there, such a great
Yeah.
stained glass.
Yeah.
And it's bigger than the little teeny bride's room.
Which is good. It's a very good bride's room.
So will the existing church entrance be used? Sure.
Yeah, and we're going to retain the other entrances. We're just not going to take them all the way to the street. So the idea is to relocate. So instead of having 4 entrances marching along Deming, we're going to decommission the sidewalk that connects the rectory to the street sidewalk and use this because it would confuse people upon arriving where to go. This will give a little bit more visual clarity of where the arrival point wants to be. And here you can see we're retaining all the arches and the nice views out to Deming. There's a connection to the office, and behind us the connection to the church.
I was just going to say, I'm Mark Sexton. I'm part of the Buildings and Ground Committee, along with Gary here and a couple of other architects and builders on Buildings and Ground. We've been working on this for over a year, and I have to say, I think we're amazed at the solution that Todd and his partner Ken Schroeder have come up with. It is so simple and elegant, and we believe purposeful at the same time. Connecting things that were never intended to connect. You can see through really great design, he has the connection to the base, the main floor of the church, and even the chapel. The chapel he does with a very simple ramp, but elevator connecting all 4 levels of the rectory. So finally, the whole parish, church and parish center are connected in a way that never was intended. It's very lightly, he actually, I think, almost repurposes this courtyard and opens it up. North light flooding into that space every day. Orientation, very important as you enter a space. You now get where you are. So I think it's a brilliant design. It actually still has, as you can see in this image, the church in its entry is still primary. But it's not a secondary entry. It has it has an importance to its own entry to the parish center and reconnects everything. Totally accessible, and I think it is really a sort of a fundamental solution. You can see it retains that beautiful archway. It's so natural that you would enter here. You're not confusing yourself with the entry to the church, but you're entering, in some ways, the organization of the church and the entire parish. So I have to say, our group, a bunch of architects that didn't get in the way, we tried to be actually very good, were just amazed as this thing developed. And it wasn't developed overnight, I have to tell you. It went through lots of revisions, lots of challenges for constructability, for budget, for function mostly. And we think here is really a solution that will stand the test of time. So I applaud Todd and his incredible work in having this come about.
So, Gary Barrow, also a member of the committee. I wanted to comment on our selection process. So one of the challenges that we faced when thinking about this project was how to build another building in between two buildings. And we had quite a few candidates to consider, and ultimately we ended up selecting SMNG because we thought they brought vision to their work. We had surveyed several other parishes and the work they had done, and our assessment as a committee on the whole was that you really needed to think outside of the parameters that the Archdiocese sets up. And I think over time people sort of find maybe the accommodating or easy solution to a problem. And after having toured several of the architects' work, we really settled on the fact that SMNG brought vision to the work that they had done. Even though they hadn't done work for the Archdiocese before, we felt confident that they could assess the problems and navigate through the Archdiocese with the help of our Archdiocese staff architect, obviously Father Kim. The other thing I wanted to comment on is when you think about bringing your elders to the church, my wedding was here in 1986, and I carried my grandma into the church. And you do what you have to do when you have to do it, but what we saw and what we charged as the mission for this project was make moves that are 100-year duration, make a really strong and permanent solution to this problem. We're blessed with the finances to be able to make the right and elegant solution, and we really feel that when we get to understand this plan better, we'll be really impressed with the magic that they brought to it. And similarly at the school, I remember 9 years of various emergencies running in here with my daughter's lunch or what have you, and they buzz you in and you can just like roam around and visit. But now there's a very careful and controlled process to bring you in. There's visual control of anybody that comes in and physical control, so that if someone were to try to barge into the school, we really have managed that, but you won't even know that it happened. And I think for me the most spectacular part of this, both projects, really when they're done, you won't really realize we've done anything other than, wow, it's really comfortable. And to me that's really the magic that they brought to the project.
I see people lugging babies up the steps and then down the steps, and they've got, one kid who's a toddler in one hand and a baby in the other, and there's no way to hold on to the railing. This way you can get into the chapel without climbing up and down stairs, and I think that's fantastic. I have one question though. The existing parish center has no elevator. Is there any connection between the elevator in the rectory and the parish center?
So the eastern building,
Yes.
eastern structure, we're connected at, there's only one floor that we could not connect to, and that is the very top level.
That's
the very top level. We got, we're on the other level, so.
That's wonderful.
The addition seems pretty modern. Is there any attempt to carry over some of the design motifs from the church itself into that space?
We're proposing to keep some of the same finishes and materials, but not try to get the same level of ornate detail. We don't want to compete with it. We don't want to try to replicate it because we'll do it poorly, frankly. The craftsmanship that went into the building and structures, the legacy structures, I'm not saying you can't do it these days. You can, but it costs an incredible amount of money. So what we're trying to do is sort of the soft, what I call a soft touch method, and that is, let's be neutral. Let's let the details that are there sing. We are preserving, there's some ornamentation here. This plaster, I know probably nobody's ever seen it, but this great ornate colonnade. piece that connects to the building. It's a termination of the limestone as it comes around, and beyond that point, it's all brick. We're going to make sure that those pieces stay intact and are visible as much as we can from in the new structure. But the palette that we're proposing, the lighting and so forth, it is LED lighting. It's current technology, efficient. We're going to comply with all the energy efficiency requirements of the city of Chicago. But we're trying to do sort of a very neutral palette, modern perhaps with the lighting. The materials though are very neutral and respectful of what's there. Let the existing structures speak.
And is there access to the rear courtyard through there?
There is not direct access. Now, that's a really good question. We really wanted to do that, but the more that we pushed and pulled and squeezed and tried different options, we were eating up more of that courtyard, and at some point there was no courtyard left. Like I said, we investigated an elevator in the courtyard, and that was eating up so much room. By putting the elevator in the rectory building, we freed that area for gathering space. But we have really tried to compress this as much as we could, just enough for the stair to function, because we didn't want to eat up more of that courtyard. That courtyard is really wonderful, and I think that it's going to take on a new life, more visibility. I think it will be maintained at a wholly different level moving forward. Yes?
The courtyard, how deeply will the new construction go into the courtyard? And what will that effect be on those stained glass windows on the east wall of the church?
We're not going to impact, we're not touching the church at all. We're about 6 or so feet off of the church wall.
Okay.
So we're going to preserve all the stained glass and all that. We're not going to touch that. There's also a fire escape that comes down from the choir, and we're not touching that either. We're trying to stay away from that and leave it alone. On the rectory building, there's a few windows that we're going to end up having to close up or open up for the new elevator connection, but we've really tried to push it back. I'd say we're about 20 to 25 feet into the courtyard, which is more than we want, but that's the smallest we could really compress this. Yeah.
So, are you doing any other work on that other rectory floors? Or
No.
No? Okay.
I think one of the good things about putting the elevator that reaches all 3 floors is we'll begin to use all 3 floors, and we'll see how that develops. We're already doing it, of course. People are making a great climb to the 3rd floor for the community room and things like that. So, it opens it up for parish use. That's why we got the priests out of there, and we'll see how that develops.
Because it's still.
Right. Yes.
One more thing, the former entrance into that parish center building, obviously I see that you won't be changing it on the facade, but what happens to that former reception area?
That is still kind of an opportunity piece that we think it'll probably be sort of a waiting area.
Okay.
For the most part. I guess I want to correct my last statement. There's no other work on the upper floors. There's really not much. Obviously, we're extending the elevator up there. And the code officials wanted us to give a rather beautiful open stair that goes up 3 levels. And the code officials wanted that. They wanted to have doors on either side of that so that it doesn't act as a chimney in the event of a fire. So it's going to improve the life safety quality of the building. We had early meetings with the zoning group and the landmarks group and the Department of Buildings, and both projects are in for permit currently. We're slated to start the schoolwork for this summer, and everything's ticking through the steps of the permit process right now.
So if you had put the elevator in the other space, it wouldn't have gone up in the parish center, right?
Correct.
So this is the better solution.
We would have had to have a bridge, and then that would have been visible from the street, and the landmarks folks would have been keen on that. Plus, the legacy of that loggia with the tile roof, you want to be able to see through it, and we're not mucking that up with this proposal.
I love that courtyard.
It's very special.
So no underground parking garage, huh?
What's the next project?
I will help dig the hole.
I think what's so interesting about the entry in this back area, I think when it's all done, it'll look like it was almost always there. It's such a almost an inevitable project. It looks like, yes, the church is elevated with its steps and its plinth and plaza. And this actually, you descend very softly down. But it's a perfect center entry into the two without impacting or destroying that. It's really what Todd has found is the something that was not visible to any of us. And he's uncovered it and made it purposeful. And I think this is something that has great potential. I want to say that we are still, we're struggling with budget always, And I went to the 11:15 Mass and heard the amazing choir sing, and I looked at the finishes that we have in our church, and I've been in many, many meetings where the color of a particular material, even the cost of the material, are questioned and, skimmed down, leaner, and I look up and I look at the church and I say, they didn't do it here. And I think that's what we're in the middle of that, and we think this is something that we do once, almost like the church, the limestone. I was looking at the rose window. Those were expensive windows. They could have cut them out from a cost standpoint, but they didn't when the building was built. And they're all looking down at us, I have to say, saying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do that will make 100 years from now someone look down and say, wow, this was really a great solution. And I think that's both, the opportunity and the obligation of doing something to this building. So that's where we are right now.
Yes.
One thing about the green roof that I love, the idea of doing that, and I would really advocate for it and hope that we could, is that first of all, it's forward thinking, and that's great. I mean, it's something that's going to have an effect on HVAC and various issues for a while, and I think it's wonderful. But and first it'll be beautiful to look at out of those windows. Part of it could be a beautiful meditation garden, but it could also be a place where the school kids could work and learn about science, botany, things like that on the roof. And so and I think of that because you were talking about tying the entire campus together. And for that to be available for our kids would be just a wonderful thing too, considering the lack of green space that kids have on this campus.
Well, we do a lot of schoolwork, and there is this notion of architecture as a teaching tool. And you're right. To the degree you can find creative ways to take something ordinary and make it extraordinary, or give it multiple uses, that's something that I think is good for everybody. And we would want to give that to you as much as we possibly could. Good questions?
So when are we going to see this finished?
Well, after we started. And as I said at the last group, any building project I've ever been part of, longer than we think. But no, obviously the school has to happen in the summer. And we want to start the project. It's more cost effective to do both the project at the same time. We've got the contractor on site doing his thing. And so that's our hope, is that obviously this is a little more, so it's going to be more than the summer for sure. But I'm saying Christmas. He's not saying Christmas. I'm saying
No, yeah.
when's Christmas, right? Yeah. Maybe Easter.
I think from commencement, it depends on when you start. Because if you start, you want to get enclosure before the bad weather hits.
Right.
And so it's all kind of tied to the start point. But in my heart of hearts, I think it's a 10 to 12 month turnaround from start to finish.
So that entrance that new entrance will be the place that people go during the week if they want to drop something off or something, rather than the old up the stairs thing.
Yeah.
Oh, my knees, thank you.
You know, there's a little, talk about functionality, you know, we watch how the amazing Gale handles everything, you know, from
Yes.
incoming and
Yes.
outgoing to deliveries and all that. And so a lot of the thoughts about this entrance went into that, simply that Dutch door, which can receive stuff, we can give homeless mail out. So there's a lot of that has been thought through, how right now it all just kind of the wind and everybody just blows in the front door. This separates that out and gives us a much better way to go about what we do.
Yes.
Is this available online at all? I mean, could it be, or will it be? Clancy, just so that people can take a
Yeah,
look.
yeah. This is our first look, and your questions are real helpful too, because I've got a little FAQ in my head here about the kind of things we want to put with this. So yeah.
Really is such a
Lovely.
I love that in the wall.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.